So welcome back to my channel. This is Gamer Dom and time for another top 5. So been working my way through all the different tiers, looking at all the different categories of tanks and how their stats reflect their abilities within VB Addict's website that basically compile data from all servers and performance of players and tanks in the last 30 days. So we're up to tier 10, did heavies last week. This week we're going to look at tank destroyers. So what are the heaviest hitting tier 10 tank destroyers in the game right now, according to the stats that VB Addicts compile? And it's a real surprise for me. There are 13 tank destroyers in total at tier 10. And yeah, it's a real surprise. So without further ado, let's get cracking. So starting at number 5 and working way backwards to number 1, the heaviest hitting tier 10 tank destroyers in the game at number 5 is the AMX-50 Foch 155. Now this is a it's a premium tank that's no longer available. Was basically one of these tanks they swapped out from the tech tree. This used to sit in at tier 10 in the French TD line, and for whatever reason, I think mainly because they thought it just didn't fit the profile of the other tanks in the line, they swapped it out. But those who had it were able to keep it as a premium tank, and instead everyone got the AMX-50 Foch B, which I think has 105mm gun, I think, if memory serves. But the Foch 155, it's still very popular. A lot of people still play it. 5,682 games, a whopping 1,997.27 damage per game, and that's largely because of this big ass gun it carries. 155mm gun, as the name would suggest, has a 3-shell magazine. Now each shell takes a while to load, only 5 seconds between each shell, and 50 for the complete reload, but boy does it pack some punch. 293 with standard AP rounds, but you don't want to use that. Oh no, you don't. Any gold spamming bastard in this game will load up with full gold and go out rocking it on this tank, because it has 395 penetration. Yes, you read that right, 395 penetration. 90mm with the HE shell, 750 average damage with the normal shells, 1100 with the HE. So this thing packs a heck of a wallop. 0.36 dispersion and 3 aim time means it's not the worst tank in terms of aim time and accuracy. 1,850 hit points is nothing special, but what is special is the armor on this thing. It's 180mm of frontal armor, and look at the sloping of this thing. In practice it's very, very hard to penetrate it. 80 at the side and 40 at the rear, but you know what, it's fairly mobile, so getting around the side and rear of this thing is not exactly easy. It's nearly 58 tons, 17.36 power ratio and 31.29 degrees per second hull traverse is okay. Top speed of 50 is very useful indeed. So you got a tank with a very big gun that spams gold like a real unicum, and gets around pretty well. Even its concealment value is not bad, 13.85, and that's with nothing. So there's no crew, no camo net, nothing. 13.85. Now of course the problem with firing 155mm shell is the moment you do, your spotting just disappears. So yeah, this thing gets its first shot away out of a bush very nicely. Probably won't get the next two very easily. View range 380 is okay as well. So it's a very, very strong tier 10 tank destroyer, and well liked by many. And incidentally, the Foch B, the replacement for it, comes in at number 6, only slightly behind in terms of average damage. In fact, 3 average damage difference between the two of them. So clearly the two Frenchies are very effective tank destroyers down there at tier 10. So next up we're off to Sweden for the tank destroyer that isn't really a tank destroyer. This is the Strv 103, better known as the S tank. This thing was a real tank, was used by the Swedish Army as a main battle tank, not as a tank destroyer. But in World of Tanks, it is a tank destroyer, clearly. And it's number 4 in terms of average damage dealt at tier 10 for tank destroyers, with 29,716 games, which is quite a lot, and 2,061.16 average damage per game. And it's not hard to see why. This gun is outstanding, really good. Like all these Swedish tank destroyers, particularly with the siege mode option, their accuracy and the gun penetration of these guns is phenomenal. 8.57 rounds per minute, 308 average penetration with a standard round, 350 if you hit the skill round, 390 average damage. Dispersion of 0.3 is not the whole story, because that is without going into TD mode. When it goes into siege mode, it's probably, I don't have the stats here, but it's 0.1 or something like that. It's incredibly accurate, and aim time likewise goes from 3 to something a lot more handy. Sorry, I can't find the stats to show that. So very good gun on a very good platform when it's in siege mode. But you say, what about the armour? Well, I think everyone understands the armour of this thing now. It's only got 40mm of frontal armour, but that doesn't matter, because the sloping when you're in siege mode is such that unless you've got a 122mm shell or bigger, you're not going to pen this. It's going to be an auto bounce, and really this thing survives on its stealth factor rather than its armour anyway, so the armour is kind of an irrelevance really. Mobility wise, well, it can get around reasonably well. It's only got a 730 horsepower engine and it weighs 40 tons, but power ratio of 18 and top speed of 50, and vitally it only takes 2 seconds to switch into siege mode and 1.3 to get out of siege mode. And once you're in that siege mode, as I say, it's like a laser gun. It's amazing. 23% concealment value when stationary and in cover, so very stealthy indeed. Remember, again, that's without any camo on my crew, without any camo on the tank, and without a camo net. So you know, this thing is ultra stealthy, very good at hiding. And spotting range comes in at 360. Is a bit on the weak side actually, but you know, decent crew with binos, you can get that up pretty well. It's only a 3-man crew, so it's quite easy to train these things up very effectively. So that is your number 4, the Jagdpanzer E100, the S-tank. So when this thing got nerfed recently, you could hear the cries of anguish from the super uniscums out there who loved seal collabing. This is the Object 268 version 4, which is number 3 in terms of average damage dealt. I wondered previous to the nerfing whether this thing would have come tops, but a couple of patches ago, Wargaming recognised that this tank was just completely overpowered. Having brought it in the patch previously, it took them quite a long time to agree that it was, and in fact there were a couple of comments I saw on forums of people saying, of Wargaming people saying, oh no, it's absolutely balanced, and it absolutely was not balanced. It's still a very strong tank destroyer. 28,077 games in the last 30 days, averaging 2,104.90 damage per game. And why is that? Well, 2 reasons, well 3 reasons really. It's got a very nice gun, 152mm gun, 3.53 rounds per minute, 293 penetration with standard, 360 with a skill round, 90 with HE, 650 average damage, 840 with HE. 0.42 dispersion is pretty horrible, and 2.5 aim time is not the best in the world, but that doesn't really matter because this thing is in your face type TD. It's definitely in the assault gun mode. 2,000 hit points is whacking chunk of hit points, 260 average armor on the front, and look at the angling of this thing. It's very hard to see where you can pen it. From the front at least, even with the nerfing it's got 100 on the side and 45 on the rear, so you think, right, I'll flank the little bugger, that's how I'll take him down, because the reload's not particularly quick, so if you can survive the first shell, close the distance, get in. Yeah. Well, they've nerfed it a bit, but even so this thing is still very nimble. 75 tons 1,350 horsepower engine, giving an 18 power ratio and a 50 top speed. 22.94 traverse speed means only really light tanks are going to be able to circle this particularly easily. But it is big and it is stupid. 13.91 concealment value without anything on that. But again, it's one of these tanks with a big ass gun. The bigger your gun, the more you reveal when you fire. And this thing certainly can be seen from the other side of the map when it opens up. But then generally it's right in the face of somebody, so you know it's there. 370 view range is another good evidence that this thing is a proper assault gun rather than tank destroyer, and really performs best when it's in somebody's face, derping them and keeping them frustrated trying to penetrate the armor on this thing. So that's number 3. That is the Object 268 version 4 Russian tier 10 tank destroyer. So at number 2, a tank I really want to get my hot little hands on. This is the Chinese tier 10 tank destroyer, the WZ113G fake tank. It's a monster. I played it on the test server a lot and absolutely loved it. Still not that widely used, still a very small data set on the live servers. According to VB Addicts, over the last 30 days only 1,821 games played in this thing, but boy does it rack it up. 2,123.15 average damage per game, and actually it finishes 0.6.5, something like that, lower than the top damage dealing TD in the game. So it's a very effective tank destroyer. And you know, again, a bit like the Object before, this is largely based around, well, actually it is different to the Object in that it doesn't have the mobility, but this thing has the same kind of big ass gun, 152mm gun, 3.53 rounds per minute, 290 standard pen, a whopping 395 with heat shells that it comes as premium, and 90 with with HE. But you know, with 395 that will go through absolutely everything. And again, there's another indication Wargaming don't give a shit about armor values, and all they want is you to spam gold. 750 average damage, 1100 with HE. 0.38 dispersion is actually not bad for a big gun like this, and 2.5 aim time is pretty horrible. So you say, well, it's not going to be much of a sniper, is it? No, and that's true, but it's a very good brawler. Even though that armor is, well, it looks very flat, but when I played this thing I bounced a lot of shit off it. And it's got a lot of hit points. 2,100 hit points is a really big chunk of change. 230mm of frontal armor is actually extraordinarily good on a tank destroyer. 80 and 70 on the side and the rear. Pays for it through mobility. It's nowhere near as nimble as the Object. 55 tons, 650 horsepower engine, only 11.8 power ratio, and the top speed is 38, but it does turn around pretty quickly. So 31.29 traverse speed is very good. So slow to get there, slow to, you know, the grunt factor is not there. Once it's there, it's pretty good. Concealment wise, well, it's a big tank. 14.93 concealment value. Again though, with, as I said with some of the others, when these big guns fire, they reveal themselves very rapidly, so you can't rely on a bush at all. But view range is actually very good. 390 view range is extraordinary. I mean, this thing is an archetypal assault gun. Get in your face and blow it off. So why it has 390 when some of the proper TDs have 370, 380, I have no idea. But there you go. That was number 2. Bit of a surprise to me, but I guess it was only a surprise that other people are getting on with it as well as I do, because sometimes I seem to like tanks other people don't. But I love this one on the test server, and I really must grind through to it here. So this was the ultimate surprise to me. So working my way through the list of 13 tier 10 tank destroyers on VB Addicts and their average damage per game, I was somewhat surprised to see that this thing comes in at number 1. This is the shit barn, or the not so shit barn anymore. This is the FV4005, the tier 10 British tank destroyer. 41,826 games, a whopping 2,123.72 damage per game. It's a bruiser, absolute bruiser. And why is that? Well, this is a one-trick pony, that is for sure. It is basically dominated by this massive gun on it. 183 millimeters of pain. 2 rounds per minute is very, very slow, but even the standard rounds do 310 penetration. 230 with HE, sorry, that's a HESH shell, and 92 with normal HE. So this thing, wow, does it kick out some pain. So if you penetrate with the AP round, 1,150 average damage. If you go through with the HESH shell, however, 1,750 average damage, and the HE similarly, 1,750. This thing kicks like a mule. It just is deadly. 0.38 dispersion and 2 aim time is also, well, it's not as bad as it was. That's one of the areas that definitely got a buff, and it kind of needed it. This thing was in the doldrums. It wasn't called the shit barn for no reason. It was shit. It's now a very effective TD. I would say very situational. I love mine, but boy, number of games I play in it where I do absolutely nothing, you get trashed almost immediately, because you can be seen in Mars from this thing. So 1,850 hit points, which when you consider that the Chinese had 2,100, is a big difference. And really the armor is just completely inconsequential. 76 hull armor, 50 38. So this thing can't take a shot. Well, he thought it couldn't take a shot. The barn on the top certainly can't take a shot. 14 millimeters of armor all the way around on this thing, and it really is like putting a barn on the top of a chassis. But it needs to be to house that big ass gun. So 14 millimeters. If you see one of these things, just load your HE, because you will get full value penetrations every time. Mobility wise, well, it's, yeah, this is another area that got a significant buffing in one of the recent patches. So 35 kph is nothing special, but power ratio of 18.62 is very nice. Only weighs 52 tons because it hasn't got much on it. It's just the gun really, and shells is the is the loadout on this. 36 hull traverse means it can't really be flanked. Mind you, you don't really need to flank this thing other than to avoid the gun, because it's got such little armor. I can forget concealment. 5.62 concealment value. This thing is so big that it just gets spotted, and that's before you even fire your gun. I mean, when you fire it, yeah, you just have a big beacon over your head, and everybody knows you've got no armor, and it will take forever for you to reload anyway. So make every shot count is really the motto of this. 390 view range basic is very good. You can see here I've got, with binos and a decent crew, very decent crew now, they're up to 520 view range. And I do like my ship barn. It is frustrating at times, but it makes up for it those times when you hit something for, you know, nearly 2,000 damage. That's what this thing is all about, and that's why I think people love playing it. But I was surprised it came in at number 1 in terms of average damage dealt, but that's the stats according to eBay Addict. Only by 0.5 or so from the Chinese thing, but still there at number 1. So you know what that means? We now get a chance to see somebody playing this thing really, really well. So we'll be right back with a game, and then after that we'll look at the bottom 3 in reverse order. Enjoy the game. Okay, so let us see how the experts play this ship barn. This is Silent Death Steel. Not as in steel something, steel as in the metal. He's driving the ship barn. You can see the loadout he's got here is, it didn't mention in the description, one of the buffs this thing got was an increase in ammo count. So it used to run out really quickly. It's now on, now it's 20 rounds. He's got 12 HESH shells and 8 AP rounds. Now what this light tank is doing here, I have no idea, and you can see he's very tempted to shoot him, I think. But no, not going to do that because he's a good boy. Now I wouldn't dare come up here because every time I do I get spotted. We're on what are we, Manfred line. It's obviously a tier 10 game. It's a 5-10 game, 5 tier 10s and the rest tier 9s. That's the target he was waiting for. Aiming in, see the aim time there, and look at that. I barely see, well, yeah. Takes a shot from a standard B that's over there, but that's a good exchange. Takes down the Strv, the S-tank, in exchange for 200 damage himself. So that's pretty good. Now the only thing is, he's now made it clear where he is. And artillery, if they got any sense, should be aiming this way. Now, there's another Hess shell loaded. There's was a couple of targets out there. All the side of a Jagdtiger. Whoa! Orgasmic. That's what we all love in these tanks. 1744 damage with a full penetration through the side armour of that Jagdtiger, who is feeling a bit sorry for himself right now, I should imagine. Probably knocked out from some some of the crew and other things as well. It's a shame he didn't get a chance to put a shell on the other Jagdtiger. Oh, can he? Not seeing much to aim at. Is he going to take the shot? No, he's not. The shells on this thing are incredibly expensive, so you don't really want to waste the shell. Also, it takes so long to reload. What's his reload? 24.7. Oh, here we go, another side-on shot. Aim in front. Oh, even better. Oh, only slightly better, but 1766. Very nice. His teammate saying good job. So there you go. He's taken down, well, he's done 3,000 damage just with 2 shots. And that's what this thing does. That's what this thing does. His teammate's a little bit scathing about his team, but hey, you gotta deal with what you deal with. Okay, so there's E3. He's thinking about it. Oh, E3's nearly giving him side. Oh, he's holding his shot. Now he launches it. Not a penetration, that, only 235. Don't need to tell you that. But would have given the E3 a bit of a headache, that is for sure. Surprised he hasn't been spotted. Every time I fire in my thing I get spotted. And he is a long way away. Long way away. He's reloaded, ready to go. Just need somebody to spot those targets for him. And this is how you have to play the ship barn. And also these sort of guns that are very high alpha, trying to keep the distance between you and the target so you can take your shot, drop back down again. Type 5 heavy, 482 to the turret. We've already done nearly 5,000 damage. Fired 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 shots. So basically 1,000 damage a shot. As near as damn it. Team are still struggling though, 3 to 6. Oh, he missed. He seemed to get the sort of shudder there just as he fired it and pulled the shot high. And the accuracy is not the best in the world for this thing, but it's still pretty good. It's still better than that. That was unfortunate miss. Just trying to get a little bit closer. Got spotted there for his troubles. I think he's RT safe though for the moment. Backed up, then so if anybody who'd been watching him would see him backing up, and then he went forward, and there's the object under the lower plate, full penetration, 1600 damage on the object 430 version 2. And I like what he did there, because the natural instinct when you're in a tank is, when you see an enemy tank, is to pull back. But he didn't. He went, okay, I'll take your shot because you're going to do 200-300 damage to me, and I've got a chance to one-shot you. And he really aimed carefully in on the lower plate, and sure enough one-shotted the object. Still getting spotted. Sorry, noisy road again. It's still warm weather here in the UK, so windows are all open. Trying to get a shot on that E3. There he is, aiming in. Look at the aim time, very slow. Oh, again, that shell seemed to drop, but I think it was partly he didn't really kind of aim it properly. So even Uniscums are human, it appears. And this guy is pretty good. What's his stats like? 41,000 games, 2,062 win rate, 58% win rate. Oh, look at this. This is orgasmic. Ah dear. E3 disappeared just as he was about to fire, but he sort of tracked where he thought the E3 would be. It was on pretty low health, and that wiped him out. Oh, there's another E3 out there. Now he's been spotted himself. Now he's going to have a bit of return fire. And the trouble with this thing, because of that barn on top of your tank, it's a very easy target to be seen and hit. Aiming in. No. Oh, he did hit it. My goodness me. It was only a splash hit. 224 damage. I thought he'd pull back too quickly there, but no, not yet. There's an object 140 coming round, so Silent is pulling back. There's an AMX. Luckily he pulled back because he obviously didn't realise that we weren't loaded. He's got some support with this Jagdpanzer, which is useful because he needs somebody to help cover his reload time. He might be able to one-shot everything, but it takes a while to do it, so you need some support when you're in a tank like this. Oh, there's the light tank. Nicely done. He's down to last round of Hesh left, and he's on AP. Now you kind of pity the attackers here. They've got to fight their way through. Well, there's a ship barn at the back. There's him here. So you've got two ship barns. They've got to get through the teeth off, and they know they're going to take big hits. And players don't like that. Oh no, the E3's been spotted, but we didn't manage to pet him. Only, oh, artillery hits us from behind, which means the enemy artillery's moved round to our B1, which is a good move on their part. So now on AP rounds, oh, there's a Conqueror there. He gave too much side there and suffered 1,165 damage AP round into the sort of front track area. Now the team are actually winning. They've turned this around. It's 11 plays 10, and there is the dastardly artillery. Aimed right in, fully aimed. Nicely done. He's down. Right, 12 plays 10. They've decided to go balls deep. Oof. Yeah, that didn't work so well. Can he get under the lower plate? Reloading. Oh. Well, he went for the damage rather than the self-preservation, and actually I can't blame him at all there. That's a monster game. 10,600 damage that we know of. Absolute brute of a game. There's only one enemy tank left, that's the E3, and he is only on 600 health. Our friendly ship barn is still in action. Yeah, that's gonna be a great win. Here comes the E3. Are we going to be able to see him dying? Here's our friend in the other ship barn. It's got god awful Christmas camo. He's pulled back. Oh, yeah, been spotted. E3's pulling back again. Missed. Had to snapshot that, unfortunately. And there's one thing the ship barn is not good at, is snap shooting. Oh, still failed to hit him. However, I think this is finally going to be it. Yep, there he goes. Good game, well played. So that was a cracking game from Silent Death Steel, sorry, leave out his name. It was an ace tanker. He got spotter, bruiser, duelist, fighter, and fire for effect, and high caliber. Finished up top of his team, of course he did. 11,209 damage, 5 kills. 1278 base XP. Was a brutal slugfest. Particularly those 2 early shots on the Jag Tiger made all the difference. 15 shots fired, hit with 12, did damage with 12, even got a couple of splash hits as well. Took 5 hits himself. Well, it's a ship barn, so all 5 penetrated, ultimately killing him. 1182 assistance damage, probably from blowing tracks off as much as anything else. He was obviously running some kind of boosts, so 155,000 credits, which is good because Hesh is expensive, cost him 102,000, so he actually made a profit of 31,695. Hadn't been running those boosters, he would have made a loss, and even if he running a non-premium account with even with the boosters, would have lost 3,000 credits as well. So there you go, that's the highest damage dealing tier 10 heavy tank in the game. Highest dealing tier 10 tank destroyer in the game right now. Get it right one day. So how about that game in the ship barn? That's just such an awesome tank. Okay, so the bottom 3 according to VB Addicts for tier 10 tank destroyers over the last 30 days across all servers is the American, the T110E4. I've been told many times this thing is a bit lackluster, which worries me a bit because I'm on the T30, which I think is the one before it. And I don't like that one either. Anyway, so this thing, 35,224 games, 1,842.16 average damage per game. You know, it should be a reasonable tank. It's got a 155mm gun, 3.08 rounds per minute, 195 penetration with standard rounds, 375 with the premium rounds, and 90 with HE. 750 average damage, 1100 with HE. 0.37 dispersion is okay, and 2.9 aim time is also okay. Once you've got a bit of equipment, this thing looks like it should be quite effective. It did get a buff recently, I believe, so it's got a bit more hit points, 2,000 hit points, and the armour at the front, 260 hull armour. Yeah, it's not the best rounding or best angling, but it's okay. 76 on the side, 38 on the rear, 203 on the turret is very nice, and 150 on the side of the turret likewise, so pretty good at ridgeline fighting, I would think. What's the gun depression? Oh no, -6. No, that's terrible. So no, not great at crest, or yeah, working a crest, for the want of a better idea. 65 or 64 tons, only 875 horsepower engine, giving it 13.67 power ratio, and only a 35 top speed. Hull traverse of 27.12 is not fantastic either, so not the most nimble. Is it got any concealment? No, 9.06% when stationary in cover. So even with a decent crew and some camo on the thing, it's not going to be very high. And again, it's a 155mm gun, so once it fires, it'll be spotted. So this is more of an assault gun, so you need that armor to work for you. View range 390 is very good. What is it about the ones that are assault guns? They give long view range. The ones that are not, they don't. I just don't get it. Hey ho. So there you go. That is number. What number is that? It's third from bottom, which means it's number 11 in the charts. So we'll come back with number 12. So in at number 12, second from bottom, for the hardest hitting tier 10 tank destroyers according to VB Addicts over the last 30 days. Another surprise to me, this is the FV217 Badger. I thought this would be higher. When this was introduced and swapped for the Death Star, everyone went on about how good it was and how OP it was. And clearly people are struggling now, or maybe other people have worked out how to take it down, but 11,869 games, 1,815.10 damage per game is the Badger. Yeah, sorry about that. So, what about the Badger? Well, it's got very nice. It's got the highest DPM of any tank currently in the game, I believe. It's a 123mm gun, 7.06 rate of fire, 272 penetration, 320 if you hit the skill round, 130 with a HESH type shell. Oh, it's an HE shell, sorry. Only 480 average damage, 620 with the HE, but look at that base DPM of 3,388. That's a lot of damage per minute. Dispersion's pretty good, 0.3, an aim time of 1.7, so nice and accurate, very fast firing gun. So I'm surprised how low this tank is in damage. 2,100 hit points is nice, and armor is excellent, 355 on the front, 101 on the side, and 38 on the rear. So I'm still struggling to see why this is such a poor performer. 66 tons, 950 engine power, gives it 14.26 power ratio and top speed of 30, but you know, you've come through the tortoise to get here, so you're used to the slowish speed of this thing. 24.6 traverse speed is okay, but nothing spectacular. Again, concealment wise, well, okay, 17.79 is okay in terms of concealment, but again, this is more of an assault gun, get in your face type tank, and very good at, I think it's very good at that myself, but so statistically not performing quite as well as expected. View range 390 is its base view range. So there you go, that is second from bottom. Which means we head down to number 13 and the worst performing tier 10 tank destroyer in the game right now. And yes, your eyes do not deceive you, that is the shit barn. This is the FV217 183 tier 10 British premium tank destroyer. This thing was swapped out, a bit like the Foch was, swapped out for the Badger in a few patches ago, because this thing was deemed not to fit the same playstyle as the British tank destroyer line. So those of us who had ground our way to it and owned it got to keep it, and it was converted to a premium, and we got the Badger for free. And I'm gobsmacked that it's bottom of the pile. 30,248 games, 1,774.99 base XP, base damage, average damage per game. So yeah, I'm very surprised. The Death Star, it's a variable tank. It has a lot of RNG with it, but to finish bottom of the pile, I am gobsmacked. Has the same basic gun as which one does it have? Not the ship bomb, but anyway, 183mm gun, 2 rounds per minute, 310 average penetration, 230 with HESH shell, and 92 with HE. 1150 with AP, but you don't ever fire that in this gun. It's Hesh all the way. 1750 average damage with a Hesh shell with a 230 penetration means that's why you play things like the ship barn and the Death Star, is for those shots where you automatically penetrate tier 10 tank and do full value to them, one-shotting them ideally. Dispersion is horrible, 0.4, and aim time of 3.4 is not great either. Armor wise, well, it's funny, it does bounce shots, it certainly does. 152 millimeters of frontal armor and 50 at the side, 76 at the rear. Turret is 254 actually, 177 on the side, 30 on the rear, and 2000 hit points. So I wouldn't rely on the armor, but this thing can bounce it, and I've seen people do very, very well bouncing shots in this thing. It's pretty slow though, it's a pretty slow tank. So 61 tons, 800 horsepower engine, 13.18 power ratio, 34 top speed, and only 26.91 traverse speed. Concealment values, well, yeah, it's a big ass tank, so it doesn't really hide very well. What am I getting? 10.44 with a decent crew. Actually, none of them are camo, so it's not outstanding, but yeah, it's not really a campy type thing. You may get one shot off, but the moment you fire, again, like all these big ass TDs, the moment you fire you get spotted from the other side of the map. But it does have a decent view range. 390 average view range is pretty good indeed. So there you go, that is your worst performing tier 10 tank destroyer. Easy for me to say. According to VB Addicts, looking at stats across all servers in the last 30 days, and it's the Death Star, the FV217 B183. So you have British derp wagons straddling the column at number 1 and number 13. So if you want to see the full rundown, I've put the whole list in the description for this video, so you can see where your favourite TD features. And I'd love to know your thoughts. As I say, I was very surprised by this one, more than I think any others. Did not expect the ship barn to be number 1. I didn't expect the Death Star to be bottom. I thought things like the Grille would be a bit higher, but that's been nerfed a fair bit. So I don't know. I'm intrigued what people think about this chart. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please give it a like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done so. In the meantime, enjoy your games, have fun, try not to take it too seriously, and I'll see you again soon. This is GamerDom signing out.